Anarchy and terror are indispensable in communism. The founders of communism personally advocated violence and terror. Terror became an inseparable with Lenin, who put Marxist theory into practice. The words of Lenin make that very clear. In principle, rejected and reject terror. Charge us with harshness, we wonder how they can forget the rudiments of Marxism. Rivers of blood were Russia, China, Korea, Burma and Cuba. Communist ideologies. Lost their lives. Crippled. In the 20th century, 120 million people, children, the young, even toddlers, lost their lives in savage. And these are just special figures. The numbers of the are much higher. Even lived in a constant fear. This ideology as an indispensable tool and obliged its followers to commit to it. For example, is how Lenin need terror against the military and the police. 1. By leading the mass. 2. Whenever a favorable opportunity presents itself, policemen their own. 3. By rescuing or when there are only police about. 4. By getting onto the roofs or upper stories of stones or pouring boiling water on the troops, etc. Such attacks and circumstances is not a revolution, but his liberation of prisoners, the seizure of funds for the needs of the uprising. The detachment of the revolutionary army must start such at a moment's notice. The propagandists with brief and simple recipes for making bombs. Squads must at once begin operations immediately at once undertake to kill a spy police station, a bank to confiscate funds for the insurrection. Unspoken, he would describe how indispensable terror was to their in blatantly horrifying terms. Anywhere, unless we resist, speculators must. Lenin himself penned the following lines. We are not at all. Only in action with the mass movement can and individual terrorist acts be of value. Death, action, alarm, and officers of one's own country without so much as bad. Human emotions are annihilated. It expects animals in the same way that will fight to the death with its own species, food, or on Darwinism. Some people that they kind of fight to survive in the same way that animals. The urge to shed blood is clear when one looks at communist publications. In the paper Krasnaya Gazeta, Lenin advocates the drowning of Russia in. We will turn our hearts into steel, in the fire of suffering and the blood of fighters for freedom. We will make our hearts cruel, hard, and immovable, so that no mercy, and so that they will not quiver at the sight of a sea of enemy blood. Without mercy, without sparing, we will kill our enemies and be thousands. Let them drown themselves. For the blood of Lenin and Urzitsky, Zinoviev and Volodarsky, let there be floods of the blood of the bourgeois. More is possible. The writings of almost all communist leaders, not just Lenin, make it abundantly clear that terror is an inseparable element of communist ideology. For example, Felix, a communist leader in the first notorious secret police, the Cheka. We see there's an absolute necessity during times of revolution. Trotsky, not being sufficiently cruel, not seeking as they did, also there be no communism without require of the revolutionary, and its ends by all means at its disposal, if necessary, rising, if required, terrorism. Mao Zedong, the notorious dictator responsible, describes how communism cannot be espoused in the absence of violence. Revolution is an instance of violence that overthrows another. In turn, the Stalinist communist organization is the used by under the Iranian indoctrination that regards life as a battleground. These separatist militants are capable of slaughtering babies, the elderly, and innocent people without a second thought. Martyr our troops to all possession of a soul, a mind, and a conscience, capable of that and through the elimination of the foundation, in other words, a wide-ranging dissemination of scientific and anti-communist information is essential against support through communist propaganda.